Hello, welcome to Wales. I'm the Riverbank Witch, and here I am on my Welsh riverbank reading to you the first fabulous 5 minutes from my novels. Today I'm reading to you from my 7th novel, The Orphan Witch, the second book in the Lizzie Martin series. You can purchase this book and all my others from my Amazon page, or you can go via my website, wendysteele.com, or you can find out what other magical creative things I've been up to at the Riverbank Witch page on Facebook. So here we have it, the first fabulous 5 minutes of The Orphan Witch. Lizzie walked from room to room, the clay bowl of frankincense smouldering, filling the house with sweet scented smoke. It wasn't only the house that needed cleansing after the burglary. Lizzie needed time to clear her mind, and her ceremonial procession around the house helped. Deep-rooted fears from the past were revisited, as well as ideas for a brighter future. It wasn't a Sabbat or an Esbat, but with Rowan back to school, starting a new term, and Lizzie fired from her job at Brown, Melchett and Brown, it was a perfect day for new beginnings. Smoke billowed around the kitchen, the fake pine units emerging from the gloom, orange icebergs in the fog. Errol Coleman's face rose out of the murk, handsome in his dress suit as he'd been at the party in Spain in the summer. It was a particularly good-looking face, tanned, chiselled, with pale blue eyes and framed by shoulder-length blonde hair. With all the evidence and testimonies, Lizzie's old boss Edward Brown would go to prison, but Lizzie hoped Errol's compliance with the authorities would save him. Born into the family, he hadn't been able to break those ties until now. With assurances from the police, he could start a new life with a new identity, and from what Marcia said, he deserved it. Moving down the hall, smoke plumed over Lizzie's shoulder, the living room filled with sugary mist, drifting towards the open fan-like windows. A lump in her throat pressed tears from her eyes. Picking up the photo on the mantelpiece, she fought to quell them. Marcia Martin, with Rowan and Lizzie on either side of her, beamed from her sun-lounger in Spain. Kind and generous, Marcia wanted nothing more than her family to be happy, and yet her son Joshua, Lizzie's ex-husband and Rowan's father, had been incapable of managing 2 peaceful weeks on holiday with the family in Spain at his mother's villa. Lizzie brought the honeyed smoke to her face and shut her eyes. She sent up a prayer with the fragrant vapour for a peaceful, pain-free end for Marcia, and love and strength to Antonio, her companion. Josh didn't know his mother had cancer. Marcia had insisted he wasn't to be told. What a shock it was going to be for him. Lizzie climbed the stairs, wishing the incense were in a thurible. Her ritual had taken on a funereal flavour, her heart already grieving for Marcia's departure from the world, and her steps heavy with the burden of grief. There was little vacant space in Lizzie's spare room, but she stood, leaning on a pile of boxes, an image of Patricia McCarthy, vivid in her mind. She'd been her mother for 38 years, yet Lizzie now knew her birth mother was called Eleanor and lived in Wales. Shock buzzed her ears and constricted her throat whenever she thought about it. With her father dead, Eleanor was the only link to him, and her only hope of discovering her true roots. Lizzie took one step into Rowan's room, allowing the cleansing perfume to drift among the debris and unmade bed. Sam's friendship and support would be needed by Rowan over the next months, and Lizzie was glad she'd kept her cool, stated her parental wishes, and made a friend of the amiable 17-year-old. She wouldn't have met Richard, his father, without him. She shut the door of her bedroom behind her and sat on the bed. She expected a genie's face to appear from the coiling smoke rising from her bowl, but it was Richard's face smiling at her from the murk, his fair hair dishevelled and blue eyes worried. There was less grief there, more weeks and months having passed since the death of his wife, but an overriding sadness clung to him. Richard was a good friend. His previous experience as a detective had saved her mother's life. Not her mother's life, Patricia's life, the woman she believed to be her mother for 38 years. Richard's kindness and generosity had helped bring a little sunshine to her summer, even though the law firm she'd worked for was now under investigation and she was out of a job. Did she fancy him? Who wouldn't? But the old woman in Spain had said he wanted a child. How could she know? She had called him her man, even her best friend. Louise had called him her fella, and yet Lizzie valued his friendship far more than any romantic connection. Her circuit complete, Lizzie placed the bowl on a kitchen windowsill. With the bass dial on her music system turned up, she dragged the vacuum cleaner from under the stairs. If she was going to clean, she might as well do it properly. It was past 3 o'clock. Lizzie alighted from the bus and hurried to the park. Weeks had passed since she'd visited her oak tree, and she worried the squirrels wouldn't remember her. A light breeze skittered across the lake, catching at her auburn hair and making her smile. Shorn hair had been necessary. A cut on her head had required stitches, but she relished in the joy of her hair moving with her once again. She pulled her velvet jacket closer and sat with her back to the oak tree, crinkled rusty leaves showering her on every breath of wind. Before the bag of monkey nuts had been retrieved from her carrier, 2 squirrels arrived to join her. "I've missed you," she said, watching her friends sitting on their haunches, reviewing her quizzically as they nibbled. "And so much has happened. My father is dead. You knew that, but not that my mother is not my mother. How crazy it sounds. And I haven't a job anymore. I'm scared, of course, but maybe this is an opportunity, a chance to try something different. Tom insists there'll be a job for me after the inquiries, once he takes back the reins. But is my old job what I want? Do I have a choice? I've always needed a job to pay the bills and keep a roof over us, so nothing has changed there. And yet job hunting seems irrelevant while Marcia is dying." And there we have it, the first 5 fabulous minutes of The Orphan Witch. I really hope you've enjoyed it and you'll join me, the Riverbank Witch, here again. Thanks so much. And if you haven't looked and listened to the other short 5-minute videos, then do catch up on all the other books that I've written. Thanks so much. See you soon. Bye-bye.